Hello everyone, this is Sergei from Ushanka Show again. It's another Ushanka Show Storytime episode for you. Once again, we're talking about Soviet propaganda when I was a kid, teenager in the Soviet Union. For those who are new to my channel, I was born in 1971 in Kiev, Soviet Ukraine. So I grew up in the Soviet Union for 20 years, 1971, 1991. I already mentioned the topic, this topic in my videos about Soviet education, but one of the way Soviet government wanted to distill propaganda in our brains is by having an additional class in school. So we went to school 6 times a week, every day but Sunday. Normally there was 5-6 lessons every day. But one day a week in my school was on Mondays in the morning before classes. And that's why I hated that class so much. And most kids probably hate it as well, because it's already, you need to get up early, go to school. On Mondays, you need to get up 30 minutes earlier because you start this political information class, политическая информация, we call it политinformация or palitra. It's 30 minutes before. So everyone, sleepy, tired, and for 30 minutes we have to discuss with our teacher political news. So expectation was that you may bring newspaper with you or some clippings of newspaper, or just you have to share some news that you heard on TV. Once again, there's a reminder, I made a video about it too. In Soviet Union at 9 p.m., so 2100, we used military time, on every TV channel, which we had 2 or 3 depending where you lived, we had exactly the same news program. So every channel was showing the same программа «Время», the news program called Time. And it was, I think, one of the rare shows that was live. So periodically there'll be little goofs happening. But anyway, so there's expectation that you will watch the news with your parents. And of course, we had even jokes about this situation, but every channel shows the same program. One guy turns TV and it's программа «Время», news time. So he switching to the second channel, same program again. Switching to the third channel, again, same program. He's like, God dang it. There's maybe another channel. Turns on the channel number 4, and there's a KGB officer. I strongly recommend you to stop clicking the channels. Watch the news. So anyway, so before I tell you this one silly episode that occurred one of these days, because we had a guy in my class and he was kind of like extremely, I don't say he's bad boy, but he had from early days, it's probably from his parents, his father was a taxi driver. So, taxi drivers in Soviet Union were one of the richest people. They made a lot of money illegally. I have a video about it. Link will be below in the comment section. And he even mentioned that quite often he would help his father to count money. One of the ways they were making additional income is hiding change and then telling customers, people who took a ride, that sorry, I don't have any change. So the ride is $4.50. They give him 5 rubles. If they don't give him exact change, he won't give them change back. So that was kind of like forced tipping. And then in the evening, he will sit with that and count all this change. So probably from his father, he had this kind of sarcastic, I don't give an F attitude about this whole, Soviet propaganda, this политинформация. I didn't like it, but I was just too nerdy to do anything about it, so I would usually bring newspaper or some clippings I like to cut out of newspaper and read it and then discuss, you see, once again, life in Soviet Union is so awesome, and over there, it's horrible. Airplane just crashed, people died. There's a report of homeless people on the streets of New York, and in Soviet Union, everyone has the right to have housing. So anyway, about политинформация, this political information class, I didn't know how far back it goes. And some of you may remember, I made a video review, like really detailed, on this book, Black on Red, My 44 Years in the Soviet Union, written by Robert Robinson. So he was a black engineer from Detroit who got hired to work in the Soviet Union in 1930s. He came for a 2-year contract, ended up stuck for 44 years. So I was shocked because when he was on the Soviet ship on the way to Russia, he describes that they had same meetings, same Politinformatia. We're talking here like 1930, right? So that was basically 50 years before my time. They already had Politinformatia. So the young sailor also explained to me that at these meetings, the crew was reminded the news of the world outside the Soviet Union must come from a Soviet source to be considered reliable. They were constantly warned that political forces throughout the world were determined to destroy the Soviet Union. These meetings, I later discovered, while living in Russia, were held regularly for workers in every professional and vocational area, and for students and faculty throughout educational systems. Artists, dancers, writers, factory workers, nobody was exempt. I am convinced that these indoctrinational methods were a major factor in turning the Soviet Union into a superpower in such a short period of time. So yeah, really cool book, by the way. Strongly recommend. Hopefully prices went down after I started making videos about this book. Amazon prices on the used market skyrocketed. Hopefully it settled down. But anyway, so this fantastic book is really big. And this is how his experience was as a black engineer in the Soviet Union. So anyway, so Politinformatia, right? And so this Kuzma guy, that was his nickname because of his last name, he was lazy. He didn't want to do all this Politinformatia preparations. So he would just pull it out of your ass. Not your ass, I apologize, out of his ass. You know, he was smart enough to catch this drift, to catch the like same topic, kind of like troubles in the, you know, different districts of New York. That was his favorite. And our main challenge was to not to laugh because, you know, when the teacher's like, okay, now it's your turn. Zhenya was his name. What can you tell us? What kind of news you want to share with? And he was just like, well, last week there were troubles again in the Yellow District. So that's kind of word that the Soviet correspondents used for news. They call, you know, Черные кварталы, so it's like black district, so that's ghetto. And then of course there were Желтые кварталы, yellow districts or quarters, that's what the Asians live. So that would be like, there's more troubles are brewing in the yellow districts. People were upset with high grocery prices and inaccessible rents, you know. So there was looting on the streets. People set up cars on fires. Police came. A lot of yellow people were arrested. And he was just talking this with this straight face, just pulling out of his butt. It was a parody pretty much on the Soviet news, but it sounds so legit. And, you know, teacher will be like, yes. Okay, great, thank you. Now, Serежа, what do you have? And a couple of times I came unprepared, and I was just too honest to lie, because I could probably come up with a bunch of stories, but I'll just tell honestly, sorry, I'm not prepared today. And I have several notes in my dnevnik, in my daily planner, that either I was late for political information class or I came unprepared. And my parents should pay attention and have a conversation with me. So yeah, Politinformatia classes apparently going all the way back to 1930s, and I experienced it in 1980s. One of the ways Soviet government tried to indoctrinate us, and it's bad enough that, you know, you only can see one news program on TV, and it's the same program, all 3 channels. You know, all the newspapers provide same information. Then they make you to present that information among your friends in school or colleges to kind of drive that ideas of the Soviet propaganda even deeper in our brains. So yeah, but Zhenya, bless his heart, at that time I was just horrified, because just to lie, straight-faced lie to you, a teacher, from me, that was like, oh my God, you know, how he dares that. But he didn't care. He, one of those guys that, you know, was smart but lazy. He could have good grades, but he just didn't care. He probably was like, hey, my dad makes a lot of money as a taxi driver. When I grow up, I'll be doing taxiing myself. I don't need all this stuff. So he just finished 8 years of school. That's how we had our school system. You go to school when you're 7. As I mentioned, you go every day but Saturday. So we had way more packed in the school year. Then, of course, summer break, thank God, for 3 months. Then at the 8th grade, so this is 7 plus 8, when you're 15, the teacher will have a parents-teacher conference, but that was in one room, all the parents and the teacher will be basically criticizing or praising kids with every parent sitting there. So, that was another kind of, if teacher tells you a kid is, behaving badly and blah, 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 then it's kind of embarrassing when all the parents around listen to you. Like when I told my wife here in America, she's like, oh, we don't do this. It's a personal, private, I was like, no. So during, oh man, I lost my train of thoughts. So at the final parents-teacher conference in the 8th grade, basically the teacher will be like, okay, your kid, he's just not smart enough to go, let's say, to high school, so to 9th grade or 10th grade. So he needs to go, get his unfinished education diploma, свидетельство о неполном образовании, and then you go either to the trade schools like PTU, Professional Technical College, or Technicum, another like trade school type, or you just go to workforce. So about 50% of my class this way was discharged. They left, and then they combined classes. So 9th and 10th grade was a big shock for me, because in Soviet Union they didn't rotate kids. I started, just because I moved, I switched schools, but when I moved to a new area, so the first 3 years, I went to school number 69. I'm chuckling now, but of course, in Soviet Union, we don't have that reference. So we have some kids. And then when I moved from the 4th grade to the 8th grade, same kids. Like, we didn't rotate kids like they do here in America. I honestly have mixed feelings. I don't know what you think about it. You can post comment right down in the comment section. I can't decide if I like it or not. I know when you're in the same group of kids for like 8 years, you kind of tend to build close relations, like really tight friendship with several guys. So then like you'll remain friends forever. Школьный друг, school friend, it's well known in the Soviet Union. But other ways, like if you don't mix them up, then I guess you don't have as many friends. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre for me. Like every year there's my kid like, oh, where's your buddy? Oh, he's now in a different class and we don't see each other at all. So that was different. So that was a shock for me, because, from the 4th for 4 years, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, so 5 years, I had exactly the same class, same girls and boys. And then suddenly, boom, and there's this brand new, half of the class is brand new people, and they have like their own little ways. What I remember, it's kind of drifting from a topic of политинформация, but what was shocking is the other class, when we meet in school, all the boys will be like, tell you hello, привет, and they will shake your hands. It was like their things, like that was there already. They're doing like adults, привет, привет, and our class didn't do it, so that was kind of like shocking. So that's kind of remember like getting now new kids. Not kids at that time. We were already like 16. This whole group of people, different girls, and that class they had some bad girls. Anyway, so yeah, that was kind of a big shock for me. Starting the 9th grade, it was this whole new, half of the class was people totally I didn't know. Eventually, we're still kind of like, there was 2 groups. Our class and their class. We were mingle a little bit. I kind of started hanging out with some new guys, but yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, политinформация, political information was extremely important part of our education. As I said, they forced us to come to school earlier on Mondays. I talked to other people that said we had Wednesdays, so there was no set schedule, but once a week all the kids had to go through this educational camp to discuss the news that we were consuming from the newspapers, TV, and radio. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this short story. Once again, if you like it, please don't forget to like this video. Once again, YouTube right now totally ignoring my channel. I see views kind of flatten out. Not much going on, but you know, we already got what we got. We had 100,000 subscribers. I got my silver plaque. I doubt we're gonna make it to 1 million, but if you want to help me, you can share with your friends, post on your social media. Well, if you watch Ushanka Show, you probably don't have any friends. I'm just kidding. That is one of my old jokes. I remember I said it once and people get offended. I'm kidding. Definitely, if you like my show, you're a little bit different. Because like my own family doesn't watch it. They're not interested. It's just not what they up to. Not into like history and all this small nitty-gritty details. But anyway, thank you again for watching Ushanka Show. We'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye.